Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, hello. My name is Fajri Putra Rudi Sukmawan. I'm from class A, and here in this video, uh, I will share about my thoughts. My reflections regarding two files that have been presented. One is made by Brown and Clark, uh, whose title is Using Thematic Analysis in Psychology. The other one is whose name whose research paper's name is An Introduction to Qualitative Research Interviewing. So, um, for my reflections, the first questions here is one. What do you find most valuable about Brown and Clark's reflexive thematic analysis? So, what I found about the valuable is their approach in its honesty and uh, I mean, their approach is its honesty and flexibility. So the paper makes it clear that themes don't just magically emerge from the data. So instead, it acknowledges that the researcher has an active role in interpreting the data and constructing the themes. Nah, and this feels much more transparent. So I also appreciate its flexibility. The researchers, explain that it's not tied to one specific theory, so you can adapt it to different kinds of research questions, whether you're taking a more realist or a constructionist approach. It feels like a foundational tool that gives you a clear six-step process without being overly rigid. So yeah, I really like how it explains about flexibility and it is allowed in a research paper. The number two is what is one insight you gain from Well about the nature of interviewing? Um, I found that the biggest insight I gained from that paper is that an interview is not just a question and answer session. It's a co-creation of knowledge. Vale describes it as a conversation where a meaning is constructed through the interaction between the interviewer and interview. These kind of completely changed my perspective because I often, when doing some research, it's always about giving answers, giving questions, and then the answers without focusing on the interactions to gog those tiny little details about my interview. The ones my interviews, reactions, intonation, etc., that might give me a hint about what they may think about and also what they may emphasize, something like that. So it's not about extracting information like a miner, but more like being a traveler who explores the um the participants' word with them, helping them to tell their own story, even in research paper. This kind of makes the process feel much more collaborative and respectful. Okay, and number three is how do you see both connecting in your own potential research project? Um, I see them as a perfect partnership, I think. Okay, Vale gives you the how for the conversation, and Brown Clark give you the how for the analysis. You would use Vale principles to design and conduct interviews that produce rich, detailed, and meaningful stories. Then you would take those interview transcripts and apply Brown and Clark's six systematic phases to carefully identify the shared patterns and themes within those stories. Essentially, Veil helps you gather high quality raw material, while Brown and Clark provide a clear, structured recipe for making sense of it. The last one is what challenges do you anticipate when applying these frameworks? So, uh, I think looking ahead, I think the biggest challenge in applying both frameworks is managing my own subjectivity as the researcher. Both authors emphasize that the researcher is an active instrument, with Vales interviewing the challenge is to listen actively without letting my own views lead the participant. With Broad and Clark analysis, the challenge is to be aware of how my own experiences might shape my interpretations of the cause and themes. So it requires a lot of reflexivity, constantly questioning. I must question my own assumptions, whether I try to interpret and trying to collect my data. So while it's challenging, I think that using these frameworks together provides a really thoughtful, ethical, and powerful way to understand people's experience. That is my reflections after reading these files. I guess that's all. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.